You know, it used to be in the United States that the expectation was that when you were young, you'd get a job. And if you were good at your job, you stayed there and you made a career out of it. You were expected to stay there maybe 20 years, maybe 40 years. And you may be promoted, may advance. Every time you got a promotion, you'd get a pay raise. Something would happen to your benefits. Maybe the company would expand and you may or may not relocate. But the hope was that if you got that job and you kept that job, you would be able to buy a mortgage and then you would own your own house. And the understanding is you would pay that mortgage, and then when you paid the mortgage off, you'd have the house, you'd own the house. Then you'd have children. Your children would grow up. Hopefully, they'd want to go to college, and you'd want them to go to a good college, and you would want them to get a good education, and you would want it to be the kind of good education that would help pay for whatever the student loans were, unless they got some prestigious scholarship, which is what everybody hopes for. And then they go to college and they do good and they make good grades and they get awards. Maybe they meet people in college and have connections comparable to the ones you have or maybe different. And they make a network. They form friendships. They form community. They stand by each other. They accomplish things and maybe do some provocative things. They find other men or women. They fall in love. They get married. They have children. Maybe one day they take you on a trip and your father would tell you about what it was like in the old country. Your grandparents had pictures of when they were back home. And your children grow up and they decide, Mom, Dad, we want to take you on a trip with us. Well, you've been talking about how you want to see the old country. You want to go find Great Graham's house in the county. See if it still looks the same. Come on, let's go. Come on, old timer, get your passport out. Get it renewed. Don't make any excuses. We're gonna pay for it. It's our present to you. Let's go together. Let's see what it looks like. We're gonna go on a vacation. I know. I'm different. All they need is one big toe and then it's all over. That's why I'm not allowed to go back to the old country yet, personally. Right? But what if you're somebody else? What if something else happens? What if your mom and your dad get married? They're good, they're devoted to each other. What if your father works very hard, hopes you're going to go to college? What if he finds out something and they try to get him to do something illegal, unconstitutional, against his religion? And so his hope that his children can go to college and have a good life and do good things. Something else happens along the way. What if you are somewhere and you actually start making some sort of name for yourself? You get involved with things, you do things, you contribute to the community. Maybe you encounter other communities and they like you. They want to work with you. You might be somebody that in a couple of years they might like to support. Hey, maybe she could do something like me. She'll be one of us in a couple of years. But then something happens. She has to leave. She has to go somewhere else, somewhere foreign, completely different. Different context, different people, different way of life. What she could have done there is not the same as what she could have done in her other community. What he was good at and what his expertise were in one area is not the same as the demand of where he could go and get something to support him. Don't ask. Don't tell. What happens if a couple of years down the road, while you're trying to get your bearings, make the adjustment, you start seeing things. You're like, that's my old life. That's who I used to be. That's my friend's name on my work, except it's somebody else with my friend's name. Oh my God. My former lover is dead again. Oh my God. I wrote that and now it's completely different than what I wrote. Oh my God. I used to dream that's what I look like. And oh my God, now he's doing what, but that's what I used to do. Did he steal my life? Was the only purpose I have being here on the planet just to prevent my own existence from coming into being, just to provide seed money or seed political capital for a number of other people with very dubious qualifications regarding what they think they're alleged to do? These stories don't really make sense. It sounds like some weird, infantilized drama made for a Hollywood story. How practical is it? You know, this man, apparently, at least according to the Walmart version on Wikipedia, was getting his law degree when I was a newspaper editor covering issues connected to secret renditions and secret detentions for allegations of financing terrorism in other countries and involved with money laundering connected to charitable organizations. He was starting his political career, it seems, including being noted as somebody that might be worthy of an Ivy League honor. When I was investigating how women from the former Soviet Union were trafficked to the United States and holed up in hotels where they were forced to have sex with people or mysterious things would happen to them. You know, it would have really have helped to have had somebody who was a lawyer from that part of the world talk with me and people like me at the time about what they understood was going on with changes to the law in this country regarding protection for victims of trafficking, including proposed changes to visa laws for people that cooperated with law enforcement. I never got to meet that guy. But he never got to meet me. Right? Years later, what's happening? Well, I'm somewhere else, working with lawyers. What am I doing? I'm the bookkeeper. I'm working with the money. Was this before or after he started studying securities at the financial university of the country that he's affiliated with now? Yeah, that's something else, isn't it? Right? Now, does this sound like a spy? Does it sound like my future husband? I mean, 20 years ago it could have, right? Does it sound like somebody who was told, if you agree to get arrested now, we'll give you a long term payoff and support your political campaign? You came here because you said you're interested in these issues we're dealing with. We have a protest planned against an opposition funder, and we're anticipating that certain people are going to get arrested. And if you help us, we'll help you. That is the kind of question that somebody with a history in studying finance and securities would be uniquely suited to answer. Do you think he would be better suited to answer it than a former bookkeeper at a capital defense law firm? Is that where I'm supposed to stay with my credentials? Even though it's been 15 years since that's where I was? Am I ever going to get to go back to being an award-winning journalist and newspaper editor that, among other things, had coverage on domestic terrorism trials, that had coverage on a successful campaign to address ongoing political injustices, that had a multi-part series that was very formative in policy decisions at a time when legislation was changing regarding international trafficking? Am I ever going to get to engage as the kind of person that wrote a community profile on the history of the civil rights movement in my own country that won an award from a journalist association that did not judge me by the color of my skin, but by the content of my character, Or was that character only good enough for a bunch of people to hustle a bunch of muni bonds they wanted to flip 20 years later for somebody else's clandestine political campaign activities? These are all legitimate questions. And if somebody saw me and what I was doing and wanted to ask me comparable questions, I would be very happy to speak with them candidly about it. Now, did they try? When I was kidnapped for 10 days and being tortured with electronic weapons while people were underwriting into my existence so that I could be used for how many years worth of derivatives associated with venture capitalists that speculated on the observation while a generation of young people were being trained to lack anything close to an ethical comportment in the face of having to watch people be tortured for college credit? Hmm, maybe someone did, and I just didn't get the word yet. It's been a while. When I was on the streets for 3 years trying to report and trying to file charges in the court, pro se, and somebody tried to get in touch with me to ask me those very provocative questions about how it seemed like things that I was doing were part of a past life experience that had been dispossessed of them. Did I just not get the message? Let me ask you, if a woman is on the streets and she's homeless and she doesn't have anyone to talk to and she hasn't taken a shower for 4 months because she's traumatized after having witnessed mass murder as an act of terrorism, would you feel like you could provoke her in that manner? Would you say, Charity Kraus, what do you think you're doing writing a legal argument like this and trying to present charges like this? Not one person had the courage to actually address me directly and in person. But they had no problem underwriting a bunch of bond fraud in the meantime. You know, that's something. It's somebody that's a provocative journalist and editor who has a history in finance and security would be uniquely suited to provide a complementary perspective on. I don't know how good, I don't know how good his American is. But it's as much a possibility as any of the other rationales that somebody else tried to make off of people's lives and then swap out over the summer while they're covering up for their role in biological warfare. You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that and get away with it. Neither am I. That's why I don't do it. I do other things. It's 5:53 p.m. on January 24th, 2021. I hope whatever was due for today, my time, or due by what I understand is actually due somewhere else on the 26th comes due. The 26th would be 10 days after the 1 year anniversary on 3 filings I submitted, 2 to the Northern District of Texas U.S. District Court and 1 to the Supreme Court of the United States. By myself, nobody helped me. Nobody's responded to me directly, but it's had a lot of currency in the meantime. Am I a world banker? Am I your banker? Do you need me to pay for your bail bond? Because if I do, it's mine. And you're going to have to come talk to me in person to negotiate the terms for its surrender. But, of course, I'm willing to negotiate